And Slim Show.
Yeah.
Dan.
Gentlemen.
Dan Alexander, author from Nova Scotia. How have you been, brother?
Hey, man. It's really good, man. Good. It's been good to have a chance to talk to you guys again before the summer break. I was looking back, and it was back in December, mid-December-ish, before Christmas when we last spoke. I was like, wow.
It doesn't feel like that long.
Yeah. Nope. And just I wanted to ask, too, has this year been better to you? Because I know last year was rough.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, it was. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So far, so good, of course. And definitely, compared to shit show, that was happening, less than a month, or like when early mid-November last year. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's, much better. It's like crazy to think it's all this time has passed, and I know things are opening up down your guys' way too. I understand, and they're slowly opening up here too.
Cool. Yeah, so, I know Cali just opened like the other day, like completely open. We're pretty much all there. So yeah, I felt like you guys were gonna be right along the line of that.
I thought so too. Initially, like back before there was a huge outbreak here in April, and I thought, they were talking mid-May, and then everything went to hell. But it's looking much, much better now. Like I literally think this is, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Cool.
From my perspective, anyway.
Have you been vaccinated, Dan?
Yeah, once, and I will have the opportunity to rebook my second shot because they're going to move them up. So
cool.
Wife got to rebook hers, and so she's around the end of the month, and I'm just waiting for the email that says, "Hey, do you want to rebook your second?" And I'll absolutely take it.
Awesome.
So,
very.
You guys?
I am. Slim is not.
Yeah, I haven't yet.
I'm
still wearing a mask. I just haven't gotten vaccinated yet.
So at least he's doing the right thing.
Listen, I was listening to that Slambo's old cover band.
Oh yeah.
Are they still together?
No.
Some of them are, just not Slambo.
I think Tiny Dave might still have a band.
The guitarist,
the same name,
is still around. Tiny David.
Well, I'm like listening to it, and I was like, oh, this is good, but sludgy, heavy. I'm into like Black Sabbath, or my life, right? But it's like, oh my god, the mix sounds like it's buried in a dump truck of horse shit.
Yeah, his vocals were definitely just buried down in a bunch of
everything
shit.
Even was. I mean, sludgy is good too, but and then I'm looking. I'm like, I see the guitar player, I see the drummer, I see an Ampeg bass amp, of course, because like Jack Casey and bass guy. I'm a bass player as well.
Yeah.
Like I see an Ampeg amp, but where the fuck is your bass player? Like, is he too cool to be on camera?
I think he was, because it was Hollywood. So our friend Hollywood back in the day. Was
it Hollywood in there?
Yeah, he just didn't show up.
He was just camera shy. Yeah. I didn't realize.
Well, I guess I could understand that to a certain point, but
yeah,
I don't know. Playing music, I always felt gave me that extra bit of confidence, but I guess I need to respect that. But still, for a minute, I'm like, there is a bass player somewhere, isn't there? This isn't some fucking, we're too good for a bass player, so we're just by ourselves.
I never knew that.
Just the mix is shit. All right.
I love Slambo's headbanging that, and how as through the video, it got less. It got less. Like I feel like he either gave himself a concussion or wore himself out. Like miserably.
So unnatural.
I was like, oh, good sense of rhythm here. Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah.
There was one point he just started swaying. Like I feel like he lost what he was doing, and he just started just bobbing in place. Yeah.
At that point, he's like, I'm kind of not, I want to sit down, but this is how I'm keeping the blood going. We've all been there.
He went the whole distance. I have to give him he completed the course, is what I'm saying.
Who was like, hey Slambo, make sure when you're not singing, you're just banging your head. You gotta be banging your head.
Oh no, that was him. That was the voices in his head telling him he had to do that.
Oh Jesus! It's good. I'm falling down the rabbit hole listening to some other stuff. I've got it queued up for tomorrow when I have a minute.
Do you still review music though, Dan? I know you're a music reviewer.
Oh, I love doing it because a lot of the long stuff that I'll put on my website is more out of, hey, this album turned so many years. I've gotten so nostalgic about all these great records that have turning a certain age, and there's some dandies this year that have turned 40, Rush's Moving Pictures, a Judas Priest one, Point of Entry, which was, kind of lesser known, but a lot of people liked it. And this coming November, The Mob Rules, the second Ronnie Dio album with Black Sabbath. So there's all these records, and second Iron Maiden record too. So I'm like, so kind of long-forming pieces about those.
Wow.
So I kind of back off a bit for the summer because this is when I tend to sort of drive myself into a brick wall. And like I'll be writing some stuff, but you won't see necessarily a lot go to my site unless something comes up. And gig wise, I mean, the gig economy for writing is always touch and go. And it's been like, so far I haven't had that much this year, but fall things always seem to like all of a sudden doors open and things happen.
Nice.
And often when you least expect it too.
Yeah.
So I keep sending some stuff out and I actually like getting rejection letters because it means people are reading.
That's true.
And I'm really fortunate. I don't often get form rejection letters. Like I'll get specific things that are pointing stuff out and say, you did read that, didn't you? All right. Okay.
Cool. That's awesome that at least you're being recognized.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I just like, it's creating.
Yeah.
So come the fall, like September, especially when it cools off and, my favorite time of year, and I'll just dig in. I'll be like, holy shit. And, look at my notes and, hey, this is funny. That might be funny. And, well, I don't give a shit if that's funny. I'll write it anyway, and write it out. And I'll try stuff. I still try to put myself out there to write material for others too, just because I like doing it. It was a fun gig, and so I like the idea of doing it.
How's your book doing? Let Nothing Go to Waste.
Oh, it's entertaining. The reactions are pretty good. They're like, wow, like I didn't think you had a sense of humor, and really, you did this. Wow. Yeah, I did that. And then I'm like, what did I do? Wait, did I do that? Because I'm scared shitless to go back and read a lot of the stuff. When the book's done, it's done. Because I like revising, right? And I could sit and revise for hours on end.
Yeah.
And I really could have just love it. Like my first book I did a book about not having kids, and that turns 10 years old next year.
Oh wow!
And you're going to do a 10th anniversary edition? So you can shove that idea up your ass. So I was like, the thought of just going through it again.
Yeah.
But because it's a pretty decent book, and it's going to have a really good long shelf life and topic life. I'm going to look at it. I'll write something come September when the anniversary comes around.
Yeah.
And next year, and I'll long form some stuff and say, well, here's where I think things have changed, because people change.
I've heard a lot though recently of like millennials not having as many kids as the other generations because they are more conscious of the impact it has.
Yeah, and at the same time, where I'm coming at it from that perspective is, I speak a little bit in the book against the idea of a national daycare program. I see idea. I guess it's the stubborn ass idea of, hey, why should I pay for kids I don't have? Well, a lot has changed, and I get to thinking quite a bit. What if that daycare program allows a child to get educated, and that child ends up becoming, someone in science and medicine who changes the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if that wrong thing, them not getting into a program like that?
Yeah.
You never know, right? So it's got me thinking. So I'm thinking a bit differently on some things, but I'm not it's just gotten me to thinking more. So I'm going to try to revisit a few things without reading the whole damn book again, because if I read it again, I'm going to end up throwing it off of a skyscraper or some shit. But I mean, like, nope, fuck this, gone. But to come back to Let Nothing Go to Waste, I will pick through a couple of things and like, holy shit, that turned out better than I expected. And
nice.
Like I said, the reactions I've gotten have been mostly positive.
Cool.
So
nice.
But grateful, because my second book, which I don't really promote hardly at all, my dad didn't like it, so I love telling that story. He's like, yeah, I read the book. Okay, I didn't like it. Just okay, and it didn't bug me. I was
gonna ask.
It's not my humor. It's not my humor. It was short fiction. It was crude, crass, really, really. I look at it now and I'd be just like, was I on something when I wrote this?
It was like our show. It was like our 7 years of this show.
So the response has been mostly positive. I would like to do another one, but so I will get some. If something occurs to me, I'll write a short piece out and tuck it away. I've submitted some stuff for contests, and periodicals. I'm always waiting to hear back from at least 3 or 4 different people and publications. That's
nice.
how my life works.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Are you any other ways?
Are you working on another book?
I'd like to. I had started something, and with the idea being it's short fiction, short, stupid, humorous fiction. And I had put a couple of things down into it, and then the ideas were, in my view, so decent. I thought, okay, I'm going to take these and submit them to periodicals as short stories. So it's like, well, so maybe over time I'll have enough for another collection. But this time it'll be all like strictly fiction. But I could also do a follow up to Let Nothing Go to Waste and call it something like Recyclables. So other stories that are still in the notebook that could be fleshed out, because I've got there's a lot written down somewhere. Nice. But I don't want to cram everything into one giant volume and make it look like a 1,000-page paperweight, So then there'll be something. As long as I'm able to do this, I'll stay in the business. Yeah. As long, because I just like doing it.
Like, I feel like if you've done a book like that large, some people might just give up at a certain point.
Oh yeah.
So it's better to keep them shorter.
I think so. I mean, you'll see, you go to any bookstore and you see some of these science fiction volumes that are like 1,000 pages, and there's some great stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I go, my God, I would lose the plot. And when I've tried to write a novel, that's how those stories have ended up becoming fatal. I've changed the names of characters and not realized it, or it's gone off on some weird thing, and I'm like, okay, great, this piece of shit doesn't make sense anymore. So into the can it goes. But keeping them short, I think, has just been more, okay, it's entertaining. You're not going to put a big retail price on it.
Yeah.
And just get it done. So hopefully, as the year comes on, especially come the fall, like I said, it'll be like, holy hell, there's this, and there's that. And to just dig in.
Yeah. Nice.
It's all well and good, man. I hope you guys end up having a really good summer down there. You deserve it.
So do you. How's the weather up there, dude? It's been so weird here. It was like super cold, and then it got like ridiculously hot, and probably about a week now it's been almost normal. I gotta say.
We had a couple of days last week which were, by my definition, like stifling, but I'm I'm very over dramatic about it. Like I'm not one for the heat, but yet I like warm weather. I just don't care for the humidity, so I complain, and I need to just stop. I'm getting too old for that shit.
I've never liked humidity, dude. It is gross. It is one of the nastiest things.
And here, of course, being right at the Atlantic Ocean, you're gonna get it, of course. Then it's just it can get really sticky. Last Tuesday, like not this week, but Tuesday last week was really gross. And we have people working in our condo building, or like our balcony is torn down. Like we're just like top floor balcony, but not like high, like 2 stories or whatever. So our balcony was torn down. So there's a guy out there working in that stifling heat with the sun pounding down on him, piecing and framing together the new decks for our side of the building. I'm like, yeah, no way. I would just collapse.
How do those guys do that, dude? There's guys in Florida that work outside all year. Like, what the fuck?
We used to spend a couple of weeks every December down in Florida, but we haven't been down in years. And I asked a few people that, like, people, even guys out on their fishing boats and everything, and they're the color of lobster on their skin, and I'm like, no, good God, no. And of course, I think of that now. Like I mentioned to you guys in December that I had melanoma removed.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my God, like, Jesus, like how do you survive in that heat? Yeah. And let alone, how do you survive in that heat and not wear sunscreen? Because half of them aren't wearing sunscreen.
No, I nobody thinks of that. I don't feel like that's a regular thing like you would normally think, especially when it's always like that.
Yeah. It's just no way. So the heat just doesn't do it for me. That's why I love September. Once it shit starts to cool off.
Yeah.
And the harvest comes in from all these farms with their fall stuff. Love it. Like, I live for that time of year. Of course, I used to hate it because, September when you're a kid, all school starts.
Ah, yeah, but I don't know. Weather-wise, it's always been my favorite. Always has
Love
been.
it.
Dan, I wanted to ask, too, going back to mentioning melanoma, what was the first inkling you had that you had it?
The spot on my neck that was a bit gnarly at first, and I just kind of brushed it aside. but then it changed. My wife noticed it changed, like there was a darker spot within it kind of thing.
Okay.
And it was just a, lucky break in the sense of, okay, got referred to dermatology right away, and it was very quick.
Cool. That's not cool, but cool that you got caught that early.
It was super cool. I after the surgery, so my brother passed on the 3rd of November. I had surgery on the 12th to have it removed. And I was thinking, it's probably nothing. It's probably one of the lower level skin things or whatever.
Yeah.
And finding out between then and early December, or the end of November, whatever it was, yep, it's melanoma. I'm like, holy shit. But, and I knew when they were telling me, of course, but it's 0.7. It's very small. So I was lucky to get in. I was lucky to go back in for a second surgery on the 3rd of December to a plastic surgeon. And what they did was, I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, in December, they take a second layer basically the second layer of skin out in the same area where the first operation was, just to make sure everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it came back clean.
Oh, man, because that's great, because that's something that could spread real easy, I feel.
Yep. And I had follow-up just last month, and I go back again in, I think it's October, November, I don't remember. And everything's good. So I'm just, hey, wear sunscreen. Mm-hmm. Sound like
another thing I've heard
on a PBS commercial.
Yeah,
seriously, wear sunscreen.
Another thing I've heard is like one sunburn can do that to you eventually. Like, it's crazy, crazy.
Yep, you have 50% chance if you have one really bad incident when you're a kid, and I had a few of those.
Yeah, I definitely had one. Like sun poisoning. It's not good. Yep.
Well, I found hats that fit my head. Finally.
Oh.
So
you got a tiny head or a big head?
Oh, giant, like appalling, like freakish, problematic. I used to get taunted for it in school, but now I've long embraced it.
Yeah.
And I should have been renting out my forehead for advertising space. Like, I really I think of the money I could have made.
Right.
If I hadn't have been so self-conscious.
Yeah. Fuck those kids. They didn't know what they were talking about.
No, dickheads. It's like, is it a bigger brain, or is there a lot of rocks, or whatever, But it was nice to actually find, like, baseball caps that fit, and then a weird looking thing with crocodile dipshit kind of thing, one of those wide rimmed.
Yeah, I just always feel like no fitted hats ever fit me right. I always got to have the adjustable. I can never do.
Yeah,
never do.
I had ordered a long time ago through Lids, and I think they're in the States too, but I don't remember. But baseball caps with lids. They order the biggest size possible, and even the biggest size didn't fit, and that just was like, oh, I'm a freak. And that was it. I just gave up.
I do the Velcro strap. I don't do any no fitteds. Fitteds are I don't know. They're weird for me.
Yeah. Well, now I've got this wide brimmed, 2 ball caps, and then this wide brimmed thing. I guess I'm practicing for when I'm 110 on a fucking golf course. So.
Ever do a fedora? Slim used to rock.
Oh,
fedoras.
I used to. Yeah, that used to be my jam.
I got one.
Fedoras.
I should wear it one day.
The fedoras are right. You know what I think is stupid is those bowler hats. In 2021,
Slambo, fan of
visor? Is that what it is? What's a bowler hat?
They're like round.
They look like commodes, don't they? Like you could basically flip them over and take a shit in them.
Like a beanie?
Right, yeah. It's almost like, it was like a round thing and it was just all like a full circle. Like,
oh yeah. I worked with a guy who wore one, and we're about the same age.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, like you just look like you stepped out of a fucking 1920 silent film. Like, to me, they look ridiculous.
Yeah, I never liked them either. The fedoras are like cool, right? They're still kind of like
cool.
silly,
yeah.
but
you can still pull that off.
Yeah.
What about a top hat? I feel like that's a cool thing to.
I think top hat is where
top hat should be where it's at right now.
I think Slash from GNR can pull off those giant hats the best.
Is he the only one? He's got to be one of the few that can just rock a top hat and be fine with it. Yeah,
and the guy's a legend because of it.
Dude, being a music reviewer, have you ever met anybody on like that level?
Just through a few email exchanges. What I'm working on doing now, so Judas Priest, or with the lineup that exists of them, is doing another. They're touring back out on the road, and they've announced a Halifax date for November, and I'm gonna try to reach out to their assistant. She's the same assistant who's been working for them since I was in my late teens, and I'm going to reach out to her and see if if Rob Halford wants to do a spot, because when he was last here, which wasn't that long ago, I had learned that he after they go in and set up and do sound check, he likes to go and walk the cities and tour around because he's a well-traveled guy. So I thought, I've got a good relationship with an editor here. I'll see if I can get him to talk for a couple minutes about what he likes about playing here, and I'll write it up.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Prior to that, the guys from Blue Oyster Cult, about 20 years ago, I was able to talk to their bass player, who's now back with them. The bass player at the time, and he's now back with them. The fact that they're still going is incredible. Their last record of theirs was an absolute banger.
I didn't even know they were still going.
Yeah, they've been kicking around for a while, and now they like last fall put out an amazing record. Wow. The Symbol Remains, and I was like, holy shit! And they've got that bass player who was with them in 2000 back when I saw them in Calgary. Oh. A lot of the people who I've interviewed, mostly like into what you'd call independent artists, or offhand, because a lot of it was so long ago, back when the website State of the Rock World was still running, and I was getting CDs sent to me in the mail, the good old days before digital.
Yeah.
And that was the shit to me. I'm like, you kidding me? Like, you just want me to listen to this and tell you what I think of it?
That's what I remember being when I was first went to college. My buddy Ralphie, he worked for the radio station at our college, and he would get that. He would get the CDs sent to him in the mail.
I just like doing it. I like looking at music from the perspective of someone like Grail Marcus, who is a legendary music historian, columnist, and the way he breaks things down is a big influence on my writing. Guy's a big Bob Dylan. He's a Bob Dylan expert, and he's just into a lot of different stuff. So I've always now, especially I like to approach it and just sort of in my head, I'm constantly breaking things down. Okay, what's the messaging? It's not necessarily, I guess, about the messaging, but what am I hearing within the music? Because of course, as a bass player too, I tend to listen. Hey, that sounds pretty good, and then listen to what everything that's being built around it.
And then Slambo.
Oh my god, that would have won a Grammy in Russia with the right mix.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
Oh yeah, he'd be big in like Turkestan or something.
Oh, easily. Anyway, it's they could have been something with the better mix. They could have been something. I had tape recorders that sounded better than that when I used to play into them.
I feel like our first podcast episode probably sounded 100% better than that. Like, absolutely, man. Fuck.
Well, the right sound, it sounds great. The wrong sound, it's a collection of Charlie Brown teachers playing on stage. And, I mean, as entertaining as that shit is, you still want to be able to understand what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
So
It's something about the weight of the world.
That was it, though. I feel like he got through that because there was only really 2 lines in that song. Right. Weight of the world and something growled. I feel like.
And I initially got it backwards. I was like, oh, the band is called Weight of the World? Oh, no, shit. Okay, the song's called. I'm like, is he singing about hay?
He cleared his throat real hard at one point. I enjoyed that. I think at the end he just cleared his throat and walked away. We didn't get that far though when we watched it, so
I'll go back and listen. I'll build a little playlist.
I still think the Slamborghini that we ended up getting years later had a better screaming voice than.
I feel like that was his trying it out.
Right?
He was feeling the waters for what we got. We got the best of him. I have to say. So. I have to say, guys.
It's entertaining, and I was like, wow, okay, I'll go check this out.
Dan, thank you so much for talking to us, dude. It's always a great time, man.
No, listen, guys, it's a blast, and Frankie's. You guys got Frankie on?
Frankie
next. Is next.
Yes, yep. And we had Bass Guy last week because we found you through them, and it's just such a cool
through
circle.
Frankie and Jack.
Yeah,
Jack Casey, of course, wonderful talent, of course, absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant human being.
He's another guy. I don't even care where the conversation goes when we have him on. It's always great.
Yeah, Jack's a real deal, and so is Frankie. But Jack, of course, is a real deal, and definitely, as far as musician goes, of course, his bass playing is phenomenal. But it's always interesting to hear him punch up his improvisations with guitar bits and everything like that. So
Yeah.
and him and Frankie play well off of each other too.
They
Just
do.
good guys.
They really are. Where can everybody find you, Dan?
So Dan with 2 N's Alexander.com, and on Twitter at Writer Dan, DANN. Buy my book because I could use the 50 cents, and it's on Amazon.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon, Dan. We'll definitely have you back next season.
Thanks, guys. Have a great summer.
You too, my friend. Take care.